Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really get into the information that counts, stuff that matters to you. Today, we're looking at something pretty serious, something that really hits at the foundation of, well, medical progress, and maybe even more importantly, patient trust. We're talking about Bengaluru, often seen as this big innovation hub. But something's come up there regarding clinical trials that is, frankly, deeply unsettling. We're going to dig into an internal audit from one of India's biggest cancer care providers, HCG Hospital, try to figure out what went wrong and, what it means for all of us.
That's right. Our focus is HCG, a major name in cancer care, and this internal audit. It brought some really alarming things to light, procedural issues, ethical lapses, and it's so important for everyone listening to remember clinical trials are, they're the absolute backbone of modern medicine. It's how we get new treatments, life-saving treatments, so keeping those trials sound, maintaining their integrity, it isn't just important, it's everything for safety, for future breakthroughs.
Okay, let's try and unpack this a bit. HCG Hospital, this isn't some small local place, right? It's part of Healthcare Global Enterprises, one of India's largest cancer care providers, huge network. They've got this reputation for advanced treatments. And their work in clinical trials is, well, it's vital for pushing oncology forward, especially for patients, with advanced cancer. These trials can be the difference. They often represent real hope, new therapies when maybe other options have run out.
Exactly, and that's precisely why these findings are so worrying. For a long time, yeah, HCG was seen as a leader, but this stuff really casts a shadow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The baseline expectation, the absolute minimum for clinical trials, is the highest standard of safety and ethics. When that gets compromised, the fallout can be massive. It hits the patients, obviously, but also the whole research process, public trust, everything.
Right. And this didn't just, pop up randomly. It came out through an internal audit done by a third party, Quinary Clinical Research. They were there at HCG, was it February 12th to 22nd, 2023, looking closely at how HCG runs its trials. But here's the thing that really jumps out. On February 22nd, halfway through the audit, it just stopped, halted. And we know this was on instructions from Dr. Sathish CT, who was the director of clinical trials there. So
Yeah.
right away, that raises a flag, doesn't it? The process meant to find problems was itself cut short.
It really was. Talk about transparency issues right off the bat. But even though it was stopped early, the report they did manage to put together, wow, it gives a really detailed and, frankly, quite shocking picture of the problems. This report is where we start seeing these, fundamental cracks in the system. A system that should be rock solid for patient safety and good science. Makes you wonder what else they might have found if they'd finished right.
Absolutely. So diving into those findings, what was the first thing that really made you think, okay, this is serious?
The first one that just leaped out, and it's such a basic safety issue. They found a phlebotomist. Now, this is someone trained specifically to draw blood. That's their job, was actually managing and mixing investigational cancer drugs. To give you an analogy, it's like asking a highly skilled baker to perform brain surgery. Both might be precise in their own fields, but the skills, the training, the risks, they're completely different worlds. This isn't just like a paperwork error. It's putting someone completely unqualified in charge of something critical.
Wow, that's staggering. The potential for harm there is just immense, isn't it, if those drugs aren't prepared exactly right for patients already so vulnerable. But what does that tell us about the system itself? Does it point to maybe pressure, lack of resources, or just a culture where safety protocols get overlooked?
Exactly. It has to point to deeper issues, right? Where was the oversight? How did someone think that was okay? Was it understaffing? Were they cutting corners? Or was there just a fundamental lack of understanding at the top about how crucial these specific qualifications are? And beyond the immediate danger to patients, think about the data. If the drug isn't mixed right, how can you trust any results from that trial? Positive or negative, the data becomes basically useless. It undermines everything.
So it wasn't just the people. The actual rules for the trials were flawed, too. The standard operating procedures, the SOPs.
Yeah, that was another huge issue. The audit found that these SOPs, which are, the detailed rule books for how everything in a trial should be done step by step, they were written by people who didn't actually have clinical research qualifications. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the SOPs were based on old rules that were replaced way back in 2019. It's like trying to navigate Bengaluru's traffic today with a map from, say, the 1980s. You're not just going to get lost. You could cause a serious accident. It shows a real failure to keep up with current regulations, which, change for very important safety reasons.
That just sounds fundamentally broken. How can any trial be valid if the instructions everyone's following are wrong, outdated, and written by people who aren't qualified?
It can't be. It really can't. It speaks to a massive problem in the trial's governance. If the basic rules are flawed, then every single step that follows is potentially compromised. Drug handling, data collection, patient monitoring, everything becomes questionable. It affects the credibility of the research, obviously, but also any safety guarantees given to patients. It's like building a house on, well, quicksand.
And okay, so when things did go wrong, like serious side effects,
Yeah.
serious adverse events, SAEs, what about tracking those?
That's another deeply concerning part. The audit found that key documents about these SAEs, and yeah, we're talking serious stuff, severe side effects, maybe unexpected hospital stays, even deaths during a trial, those documents were just missing,
I'm
gone.
missing. How can that happen?
It's hard to fathom, but that's what they found. It's like investigating a crime scene but finding the police report is missing. It leaves everyone completely in the dark. The regulators, the researchers themselves, and crucially, the patients and their families. How can you know what went wrong, why it happened, how to stop it happening again? It makes accountability, medical or legal, pretty much impossible. You can't learn from mistakes if you don't even have the records of what happened.
And that directly impacts the patients who might have been harmed.
Right.
The audit said no impact assessments, no clarity on how they were managed medically, and nothing about financial compensation.
Nothing documented. Imagine, just put yourself in the shoes of a patient. You volunteer for a trial, you're trying to help science, maybe find a cure for yourself. You suffer serious side effects, and then you're basically met with a shrug. Sorry, we don't seem to have the paperwork on that. No process for compensation. It's more than just bad record keeping. It feels like a profound betrayal, a failure of the institution's basic responsibility to care for the people in their trials.
Okay, so the operational side was a mess. Patient follow-up was missing. What about the watchdog, the Institutional Ethics Committee, the IEC? Weren't they supposed to prevent this?
You'd think so. That's their entire purpose, right? To be the independent body ensuring trials are ethical and safe. But the audit found major problems there, too. Meetings were apparently held without a proper quorum, meaning not enough members were even present to make valid decisions. And even when they did meet, there was apparently very little real discussion about why SAEs happened or what needed to be done about them. It's like trying to have a court case, but the judge isn't there, and maybe half the jury is missing. You can go through the motions, but you're not getting justice, are you?
So the ethical backbone was compromised, too.
Pretty much. If the committee designed specifically to uphold ethics and safety isn't functioning right, well, that's a huge gap. It leaves patients incredibly vulnerable. It suggests maybe they didn't understand their role, or worse, they were deliberately not fulfilling their duties.
And it didn't stop there, did it?
Yeah.
They weren't even telling the main regulatory body, the CDSCO, about changes in the committee.
Nope. Another compliance failure. Changes in who was on the committee, new members joining, people resigning. They apparently weren't reported to the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization. The audit found no formal appointment letters for members. And get this, resignation letters going back as far as 2013 hadn't even been archived properly.
2013? That's not just messy paperwork.
It's a pattern, right. It points to a systemic disregard for regulatory requirements. These rules about notifying regulators, about proper documentation, they exist for transparency and accountability. Ignoring them is like driving without bothering to register your car, get insurance. It suggests a culture where compliance just wasn't a priority.
And the final nail in the coffin, so to speak, was about data security, storing sensitive patient information.
Yeah, that too. The audit found insecure storage of critical clinical trial data. We're talking confidential patient details, the actual trial results, all stored without a proper controlled system. No guarantee of who could access it or if it could be altered.
How serious is that?
Oh, it's incredibly serious. Think about it. Patient confidentiality is paramount, and the integrity of the trial data itself is crucial for scientific validity, leaving that kind of sensitive information unsecured. It's like leaving your bank details pinned to a public notice board. In today's world, data security is non-negotiable. This kind of carelessness risks breaches, compromises privacy, and could completely invalidate the research if the data integrity is questioned. It shows a real lack of respect for the information they were handling.
So all these shocking findings, they didn't just stay buried in the audit report. They came out partly because of renewed scrutiny, right? Especially after Justice P. Krishna Pat resigned. He used to chair the ethics committee at HCG.
That's right. Justice Pat had actually resigned earlier, and he himself had raised concerns about ethical and procedural issues.
So his departure, combined with these really stark audit findings, seems to have pushed things forward.
Exactly. That combination apparently prompted the state health department in Karnataka to step in and ask for a full investigation by the top drug regulator, the Drug Controller General of India, the DCGI. And we understand inspections were actually scheduled, I think, for July 3rd and 4th, 2025, which shows they were taking it very seriously now. Perhaps those earlier warnings weren't fully acted upon.
Okay, so stepping back, what does all this mean for medical progress? I mean, we said earlier, clinical trials, especially in cancer, are so vital. They offer hope, they push treatments forward. This whole situation at HCG, it doesn't just reflect on them, does it? It makes you question the wider system for clinical research in India.
It absolutely does. You can't just look at this as one hospital having problems. It forces some tough questions. Are there deeper systemic weaknesses in how clinical research is run and overseen in India? Are the regulatory bodies like the CDSCO equipped to handle the oversight needed? Are they stretched too thin? And the biggest question, maybe, how do you rebuild patient trust? Trust is everything in clinical trials. People volunteer their health, their bodies. If that trust is broken, it impacts all future research. This is a massive wake-up call.
And the public reaction, I imagine, has been strong.
Oh, definitely. Outrage is probably the right word. Lots of noise on social media, people demanding answers, demanding accountability, as you'd expect.
And what about doctors, researchers, ethicists?
Deep concern there, too. Oncologists, ethicists. They're worried about the harm to patients, obviously, but also about the damage to the reputation of Indian clinical research overall. Nobody wants India to be seen as a place where corners are cut or ethics are compromised. So, yeah, there's a strong feeling that this needs serious attention, not just at HCG, but maybe industry-wide.
And you just keep thinking about the patients and families caught up in this, especially knowing there were no impact assessments, no clear path for compensation. The uncertainty for them must be awful.
It's truly heartbreaking. They put their trust in the system, and it seems like the system failed them profoundly. So, what's next? Well, the immediate step is the CDSCO inspection of HCG's ethics committee. That's happening. But, a lot of experts are saying that's just the start. It's necessary, but it's not going to be enough on its own.
Right. It feels like this needs more than just an inspection after the fact. It needs proactive changes, like maybe tougher regulations across the board,
Right, yeah.
better mandatory training for absolutely everyone involved in trials, and maybe making sure these ethics committees are truly independent and have teeth.
Absolutely. It raises that bigger question for the whole system. We need to look again at how hospitals function as trial sites, how effective the regulators really are, and how well international standards are actually being followed on the ground. The ultimate goal has to be preventing anything like this from happening again. Anywhere. It's about rebuilding that foundation of trust.
So to sum up this deep dive,
Hmm?
what we've seen at HCG Hospital is, well, it's a cascade of failures, isn't it? Shocking procedural mistakes, like unqualified staff mixing critical drugs, major ethical breaches, missing safety documents, a watchdog committee that wasn't watching effectively. It just hammers home how absolutely vital integrity and patient safety are. They have to be the non-negotiable foundation for all medical research.
Completely agree. And as this investigation moves forward, the crucial thing is that real lessons are learned, not just noted down, but genuinely understood and acted upon. We need robust reforms, system-wide, to restore public confidence. The future of medical advancement and the hope it offers really depends on getting this right.
And maybe a final thought for you, listening. As we think about this story, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? In this constant push for medical breakthroughs, what are those checks and balances we rely on, maybe without even realizing it? And how do we, just as people trying to stay informed, make sure that our trust in that progress is never, ever misplaced?